Unit 4, day 2 notes. Let's go. If we're going to graph the parent function for y equals sine of x, we're going to start here at the origin. And then pi over 2 comma 1, pi comma 0, 3 pi over 2 comma negative 1, and then 2 pi comma 0. We have now completed a cycle. It took 2 pi to complete that cycle. Now, from the very far right dot, I'm going to notice the pattern and then continue it over to the negative portion of the graph. So we were at middle, bottom, middle, top, middle, bottom, middle, top, middle. And that would continue on and on and on. If this were to continue on forever, our domain would be negative infinity, positive infinity. Now, oops. Now watch what I'm going to do here with our range. I'm going to start graphing these little bumpers. I'm going to call them bumpers today. And it's going to help us graph whenever we have transformations. That's the word I'm looking for. So those are going to act like bumpers, you know, in bowling. You set up the bumpers and you bowl because you're not really good. It just kind of goes think, 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 think back and forth until you finally knock all the pins down. That's what I'm gonna call these bumpers. It's keeping our little bowling ball in line here, isn't it? Gee, pink, pink, pink. Anyway, range for this one would be negative 1, comma 1, and those are going to get brackets. Now, before I move on to the next one, I'm going to draw the pattern here for sine waves. Now we start in the middle, then we go top, middle, top, and we go back to the middle, then we go bottom, and then back to the middle. And that will repeat over and over and over again. Okay, now let's do the, what are we doing? Y equals cosine of x. That's going to start here, 0, comma 1, and pi over 2, comma 0. Pi comma negative 1, 3 pi over 2 comma 0, and then 2 pi comma 1. We have completed a period. Therefore, it takes 2 pi to complete this particular one. Starting over here at the very far right dot, let's notice the pattern: up, middle, down, middle, up, middle, down, middle, up. Let's connect. I'm going to draw my bumpers for the range here. Reminder, drawing these bumpers are going to help us graph whenever we start having some transformations. Domain. Range once again, negative 1, 1. Now, like I did here with sine waves, I'm going to draw the pattern for cosine waves. We're starting up, then middle, then down, then middle, and then finishing up. That's the pattern for cosine waves. Right here, do you remember the transformation rules from algebra 2? Let's review, identify, blah, 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 all that other kind of stuff. Here we have a shift up of 1. Here we're shifting down 1. Here, this is a reflection over the x-axis. Here we're actually going left 1. Here we're going right 1. Here we have a stretch of 2. Right here we have a compression or a shrink of 1/2. It means the same thing, but I don't really know what terminology they're going to use at times. Okay, now we're going to graph something that has a transformation. Y equals sine of x plus 1. What that's going to do, that's going to take our graph, which normally we would begin here, and it's going to shift up 1. Now, what that's also going to do is, since we shifted up 1 from the original function, that's also going to shift up our bumpers. So now I have a bumper right above that dot. and right below the dot. And even if you wanted to, you could sketch a new midpoint, which I recommend doing. We're going to have a new midpoint here. So now what we can do is we can use the pattern for sine waves, which remember is middle, up, middle, down, and then back to the middle. So it repeats over and over and over again. We can use our new midpoint, our new bumpers, and we can start graphing. So sine waves start in the middle. They then go up, back to the middle. They then go down and then back to the middle, and then the pattern repeats over and over and over again. So starting from the furthest right dot, let's see what the pattern is and repeat it over here in the negative portion of the graph. Middle, down, middle, up, middle, down, middle, up, middle. Connect. Done. Domain. Still negative infinity, positive infinity. Wait for the range though. Where do these pink bumpers, if we're looking at the y-axis, where do they go through? They go through where y is 0. They go through where y is 2. So our range has changed. Our range is 0, 2, and it still takes a period of 2 pi to complete the cycle. Now we're going to graph a cosine wave that has a transition shift down of 2. Before we do that, let me write down what the pattern is of cosine waves. They start up, middle, down, middle, up, and then it would repeat over and over and over again. So if we're shifting down 2, I'm going to go ahead and draw my midpoint. And now my bumpers. 1 above the midpoint, then 1 below it. Now what I'm going to do to eliminate confusion here is I'm going to get rid of this coordinate here, because remember our sine waves or cosine waves, our cosine waves don't start there. Our cosine waves start up. So that's where this one will begin. They then go to the midpoint. They then go down. They then go back to the midpoint. They then go up. Now let's follow the pattern. Up, mid, down, mid, up, mid, down, mid, up. Range, let's take a look at where these pink bumpers are going through on the y-axis. Looks like we go through -1 and -3. We want to start with the lowest first. -3, -1. It's going to take 2 pi to complete the cycle. Now we're about to graph y equals -2 sine of x. This one's different from the previous one because we have a reflection and we have a stretch of 2. Now for these waves, that 2 is actually called an amplitude of 2. And what that's going to do is it's going to create a height change. Our bumpers are going to be a little bit more spread apart than they typically are. And before we begin graphing these, here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to once again write down the pattern for sine waves. They start middle, then they go top, middle, bottom, and then back to the middle. Well, let's set that aside for now. Let's start by figuring out, okay, well, we're not shifting up or down any. So this line here is still going to act as our midpoint line, the x-axis. Now this amplitude of 2, previously we've been dealing with amplitudes of 1. What this is going to do is our midpoint line, we're going to go up 2 boxes, and that's going to be our new top bumper. from the midpoint line, we're then going to go down 2 boxes, and that will now be our lower bumper. So you see what the amplitude does? It just creates a height change there. Now, what sine waves usually do, this is usually the pattern for sine waves. Let me show you what a reflection is going to do. Our midpoint is, we're still going to start with the midpoint, but instead of going up, a reflection is going to go down, middle, up, and then back to the middle. So let's follow that pattern, and these are going to be pretty easy to grab. So we're going to start in the middle, then going to go down, back to the middle, and then up, and then back to the middle. Just repeat the pattern from right to left, middle, top, middle, bottom, middle, top, middle, bottom, middle. Domain, still negative infinity, positive infinity. Let's take a look at our range. Those pink lines, looks like we're going through -2 and +2, so that's going to be our range. And it's going to still take 2 pi to complete a cycle. Over here, y equals 3 sine of x. We have another height change, if you will. We have a stretch of 3. Let me write down the pattern for sine waves. We're going to be starting at the middle. We have an amplitude of 3, meaning what we're going to do is we are going to, from the middle, we're going to simply just go up 3 boxes. And that's going to be our new top bumper. Starting back at the origin here, and we're now going to go down 3 boxes. And that's going to be our lower bumper. The x-axis is our midpoint. And now let's follow the pattern. Middle, up, middle, down, middle. From right to left, let's repeat the pattern. Middle, down, middle, up, middle, down, middle, up, middle. Domain. Range, looks like this pink line is going through the y-axis at -1, -2, -3, and 1 to +3. Still takes 2 pi. Example number 6, we're going to graph y equals 2 times cosine of x plus 1. We have a couple of different transformations here. We have an amplitude of 2, and we are going up 1. So from the origin, let's go ahead and shift up 1. That's going to be our new middle. We have an amplitude of 2. That's going to be a height change. So it's from the middle, go up 2 boxes. That's our new top bumper. From our new middle, let's go down 2 boxes. That's going to be the bottom bumper. I went ahead and already wrote out the pattern for cosine waves here. And now we can just follow the pattern. We're going to start up. So let me get rid of that dot there. We're going to start up. We're then going to go middle. We're then going to go down, middle, up, following the pattern from right to left. Up, middle, down, middle, up, middle, down, middle, up. Take a look at our range. So it looks like that pink line is going through -1 at the y-axis. 1, 2, 3, and +3 at the y-axis. Example 7, graph y equals -3 cosine of x plus 1. we have three transformations here. We have a reflection. We have an amplitude of 3, and we are shifting up 1. I'm going to take care of the reflection first, and the way I'm going to do that is I'm going to change the pattern here. Traditionally, cosine waves start up, but since we have a reflection, we're going to start down, mid, up, mid, down. So that's going to need to be the pattern that we follow here. We are shifting from the origin up 1. So this is going to be our new midpoint. We have an amplitude of 3. So from our new midpoint, go up 3 boxes. That's our new top bumper. From our new midpoint, let's go down 3 boxes. That's our new lower bumper. Cosine waves. Remember, our new pattern is we're going to start at the bottom bumper. So let me do that. We're then going to go middle, top, middle, bottom, bottom, middle, top, middle, bottom, middle, top, middle, bottom. Range looks like we're going through -2. We are going through +4. With a period of 2 pi. Looking at example 8, now we are having a horizontal shift of pi over 2, and we're going to the right. I'm going to write that one down. We're going right pi over 2. I went ahead and wrote down the pattern for our sine waves. So traditionally, we would start here at the origin, right, with sine waves whenever there's no shift up or down. Well, since we're going to be shifting to the right pi over 2, that means our graph is actually going to begin here. Our midpoint is still going to be the x-axis. No phase, I'm sorry, no amplitude here. So our top bumper is going to be 1 above the blue line. Our bottom bumper is going to be 1 below the blue line. And we just want to follow this pattern here. So we're starting middle. We then want to go up, middle, down. Now we're going to follow this pattern from right to left. Down, middle, up, middle, down, middle, up, middle, down. Period is still 2 pi. Example 9, we have a reflection, amplitude of 2. We are going left pi over 4. We are going down 1. We have quite a bit of transformations here. Let's worry about this reflection for right now. Here's the original pattern for a sine wave. Mid is still going to stay the same, but instead of up, that reflection is going to change this to down, middle, up, back to the middle. All right, let's see here. We want to, let's go ahead and let's look at this pi over 4 here. Now, you see how on our x-axis here, well, we start at 0 and then pi over 2 and then pi and then 3 pi over 2 and then 2 pi. On the unit circle, those all represent our quadrant angles. And all of those quadrant angles to get from one to the next, that's a 90-degree rotation. Well, if you remember pi over 4, that's a 45-degree rotation. So rather than going 2 boxes to get to a 90-degree rotation, we just simply need to transition one box left or right, and that will constitute a 45-degree rotation. Now left, sorry, x plus pi over 4, that really means we're going left pi over 4. So I'm going to start by going one box to the left, and then now I'm going to take care of the vertical transformation of down 1. So one box to the left, down 1. That's where our new middle is going to be. So let me take care of that. There's our new midpoint. We have an amplitude of 2. So from our blue line, I'm going to go up 2 boxes. Put down my upper bumper. From the blue line, our midpoint, let me go down 2 boxes and put the lower bumper. There it is. Let's see here. Next, okay, now we just need to follow the pattern here. We need to follow the pattern in blue because remember we have a reflection. We're going to start middle and then down. Now we're going to have to go, whenever we plot the down dot, we need to go 2 boxes over and then down, 2 boxes over, middle, 2 boxes over, up, 2 boxes over, back to the middle. And now we can follow this pattern. Middle, up, middle, down, middle, 2 boxes over, up, 2 boxes over, middle, 2 boxes over, down. Range looks like that pink line is going through the y-axis at -1, -2, -3, and that one +1. If you would please hit pause, try these next 2 on your own, and then when you're done, hit unpause, and then all of a sudden the answers shall appear for 10 and 11. Ta-da! How'd you do? Great. For 12a and b, they have given us a graph and they want us to write the equation. For example, A, they want us to use sine. So y equals sine. What I'm going to do is I'm going to figure out, where are my bumpers? Looks like I have a bumper there. I have one there. Now that we've determined where our bumpers are, we can look at, well, where does sine usually start? And by usually, I mean always, if it's the parent. Starts at the midpoint. Well, from this point here, it looks like I would need to go up 2 spaces to get to that bumper and down 2 spaces to get to that bumper. So we have an amplitude of 2. Now, what sine waves do is they start middle, top, middle, bottom. That's the pattern here. So there is no sort of reflection. But here's the origin. We shift it down 1. So we have sine of x, close parentheses, and then a -1. And that one's finished. All right, so example B, they want us to use cosine here. There it is. Let's figure out where our bumpers would go. Like right about there. There, our midpoint is here, up 1 from that midpoint, down 1 from that midpoint. There's no amplitude here. I guess it's an amplitude of 1, but there's nothing we need to write in front of cosine. Now remember, cosine waves, they traditionally start at the top. This one starts at the bottom. So we have a reflection here. Here is the origin. Our midpoint looks like that is at +1. If this blue line, it would continue going. It goes to the y-axis at 1. That means we have a vertical shift up 1. And that was finished. It's kind of hard to see. I wrote in one color there. Negative. Oops, forgot my x, didn't I? And then +1. Example 13, write the equation of the following sine functions with the given characteristics. Y equals sine. We have an amplitude of 3. Period of 2 pi. All these are going to have 2 pi today, so don't worry about that so much. And we have a vertical shift down 2. So I'm going to put my x in parentheses and then minus 2. Amplitude of 1. So we don't need to write any number in front of sine. A vertical shift up 3. And a vertical reflection. That one's done. Try the rest. Hit pause. When you're done, hit unpause. And then see if you got the right answers. There's the answers. I think that's it for today. Hit pause because I'm about to move the paper. Yeah, that's it. Congratulations. Now do your assignment.